One of the ironic things about this time of year is we're told this is the time of year to be thinking about others. But yet, the way we celebrate Christmas so often is teaching our kids to think more about themselves. Make a list of the things you want. We have all of this culture built up in gifts, and we say things like, hey, it's more blessed to give than to receive. But is that really what we're teaching? Is that really how we're raising our kids? Are we raising our kids to think about others, or are we raising them to think about themselves? In this video, we're going to talk about empathy. Empathy is one of those incredibly important skills of being a good person. But how in the world do you teach empathy to your kids? Let's get into it. If we're going to talk about empathy, the first thing we have to establish is the difference between empathy and sympathy. Sympathy is often what we actually strive for. Empathy is a step further because sympathy is feeling sorry for someone. When you see someone going through a rough time, you feel bad for them. Sympathy is what we feel when there are earthquakes and tornadoes and other catastrophes on the other side of the world, and we see those people hurting and we feel sorry, but it doesn't actually affect us. Empathy, on the other hand, is feeling sorry with someone. Empathy is what happens when someone you love is hurting, and you find yourself hurting with them. You find yourself feeling those feelings as though they were your own. And this is what we want our kids to have, because empathy it's more important than sympathy. But how in the world do you teach that? Well, that's where it gets a little bit dicey and complicated, because honestly, this is often something that we struggle with, and it's got to be a balance. I mean, if you feel everything that everyone else in the world feels, you can't survive. I mean, imagine trying to move through life feeling all of those things. But on the other hand, imagine going through life never actually feeling what other people feel, and so you're disconnected, you're cold, you're cut off. We don't want that either. So how do you teach your kids empathy? One of the best ways to teach empathy is through the power of stories. Reading books to your kids teaches empathy. Having them engage in that character's life, and I'm not talking about short books of 6 pages, though those are fun to read, don't get me wrong. I'm talking about the books where there's real character development and you're gnawing through it and you're feeling with it and you're going along with the journey. And when something terrible happens, it's a blow to you because you have developed a relationship with the character in the book. These are the types of books that start equipping you with empathy. Also, telling your own personal story. Tell your kids your stories, not just the good things, but also the things that didn't go so well. Be open with them about your feelings and what you went through. Talk that through with them. Let your kids see your pain, but also let them see your joy, because empathy isn't just about sharing bad feelings. It's also about sharing joy. It's about sharing happiness. It's about sharing life with each other. It's also about sharing stories of people that are like us and people that are not like us. It's about asking questions. How do you think I felt then? How do you think this person feels when this happens or when that happens? So that your children start to process and think that through. It's about learning to think about others. What are they feeling? How does that affect me? Another important way to teach empathy is to model it. You see, we can't teach something to our kids that we're not actually living out. It's so easy when our kids have something happen to them, whether it be another kid picking on them or they're trying to learn how to ride the bike and they fall, and we choose sympathy over empathy. We feel sorry for our kids, but we don't actually pause and just feel those emotions with them. There's a danger here, though, because sympathy has kind of a displacement to it, whereas empathy, you're shouldering that burden together. Sympathy allows you to remain above the pain. And often sympathy results in you wanting to fix the problem. And so it's you jumping to the conclusion, trying to establish like, oh, okay, well, let me solve that so that it's no longer a problem. But empathy doesn't do that. Empathy is you putting your arms around the child. And as they cry, you cry with them. The beautiful thing about this is, although it doesn't solve the problem, it equips your child to solve the problem because it establishes that their feelings are merited. It establishes they're not alone. But it also gives them strength, knowing that you are with them going through this. As they're sharing that, they're now able to process it and move forward. You see, when we just fix the problems and move on, we're never teaching our kids how to process those emotions. Tears are healthy. We want our kids to cry. We want them to learn to deal with those things in life that don't go the way they're intended. Because unfortunately, we can't always be there to fix everything for our kids. Life is full of terrible things that we cannot always fix. And so we've got to figure out, how do we raise our children to process those things and fix them themselves? And it's not easy, especially as adults. We are often still struggling with, how do I do this? How do I process my own feelings and what I'm going through? And I want you to realize something. The God of the universe, in his infinite wisdom, he chose empathy over sympathy. He didn't just see us suffering here on earth and say, oh man, that's terrible, and make everything right. No. Christmas is a celebration of empathy. It's the God of the universe seeing what we were going through and said, you know what? I'm going to go through that with you to save you. And so Jesus, being born as a baby, the name Emmanuel, God with us, is a story of divine empathy. If we are teaching our kids to be Jesus followers, we cannot teach them to do that without engaging in empathy. And this means the next time you're driving down the road and you see somebody out in the cold, instead of just feeling sorry for them, as Christ's followers, we need to engage in empathy. We need to feel sorry with them. You're not going to want to miss next week's video. I'm doing one on Christmas Day talking about sacrifice, talking about how do we teach our kids to give. Not just give to the point of comfort, but really give. So same time, same place next week. You're not going to want to miss that video. And we've got some great new videos coming in 2021 talking about our kids' emotions and so forth. So if you have not subscribed, I invite you to do that and be a part of this community we're building here as we work together to disciple our kids. And if you want to be the first to watch these videos, click that bell notification so you know exactly when they come out. We'll see you later.